गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. ओम जस्ट a minute. Yeah, okay. So in Mula Vidya Nirasa we were studying some part. 14th section we have to start. Okay, Shabda Pramanyam. Shabda Pramanyam means the validity of the Shabda. Shabda Pramana. If we go by our Anubhava only, how can Shabda Pramanyam? I think Swamiji himself says, I don't have to say. Okay. Aha. This is a beautiful book anyway. I got a beautiful book. It's very interesting. Now question, Nanu evam shastrasya anuvadakatvam apattihi tatha aptavakyanamapi anadhigata adhigantruhi pramanam bhavati tatra यदि तत्वार्थो निर्णीतः एव तर्कतः एव प्राक् कथम अनन्तरं व्याप्रियमाणम् अश्नुवीतवाक्यं स्वातन्त्र्येण प्रामाण्यम् इति. This is the question. Now the question comes, if we have to determine the truth by examining our anubhavas, in our debate, during our debate, we have decided that the debaters should refer to Anubhava and also give Anubhava Shrita Tarka, Anubhavanga Tarka, the reasoning based upon Anubhava. If with the help of our own statements, we can gain Jnanam, and also with the help of reasoning based upon Anubhava, if this alone can give us Jnanam, then the question arises, what is the place of Shruti? Is Shruti not Pramanam? Shruti Pramana Vagallava? Nanu evam Shastrasya Anuvadakatvat. Then Shastra becomes only Anuvadaka. See, Anuvadaka means what is not an independently pramanam, but what is understood through other pramanas. This statement is only repeating. It is only repeating what can be understood by other pramanas. That is called Anuvada. If Shruti also would become Anuvada. If what Shruti has to say is understood by human beings' statement and another debater's statement, and also with the help of reasoning alone, if we can understand the truth, then what is the place of Shruti? So, nanu evam shastrasya anuvadakatvat apramanyapattihi. I read out my translation. If thus the revealed text, scriptural text is to be quoted at the end, it would become invalid as a means of knowledge, because it is only echoing what the other means of knowledge say. What other means of knowledge reveal, it is only echoing, not independently revealing. Tatha aptavakyanamapi. Similarly, aptavakya means Shrutivakya is the Upanishadic Vedic statement. Aptavakya means statement of the Gurus, Mahatmas or Siddha Purusha, who are already Anubhavagnya. Anubhava Jnani statement. Jnani statement also would become Anuvada. Similarly, the text of a holy person, the statement of a holy person too would become invalid. Okay. Where is the, here. Statement of a person too would become invalid because Anadigata Adigantruhi Pramanam Bhavati. A Pramana is a Pramana only when it reveals something. It declares, it discloses something what cannot be understood by any other Pramana. Okay? Anadhigata Adigantruhi Pramanam Bhavati. What can be known by no other Pramana. That alone it should reveal. Then it becomes Pramana. So in my translation, a Pramana is something which reveals, a Pramana is what it is, which reveals what cannot be known by other means of knowledge, by other Pramanas. Okay. Now, tatra yadi tatvarto nirnitaha eva tarkatah prak. If the truth is determined by the logic, by our debate, if truth is understood with the help of logic already, then what happened? Katham anantaram vyapriyamanam. The Shruti which comes at the end of it. Ashnuvita vakyam swatantrena pramanyam. How would it become pramana, an independent pramana? Because it is only echoing. Okay, I read out my translation. If the truth is already ascertained by reasoning, then how can the text that comes after it, means that follows the determined truth. The truth is, the statement is coming to say what is already known, what is already ascertained. It is only coming here only to restate, repeat it, echoing it, which echoes become an independent means of knowledge. This is the Purvapaksha. This is the objection by Purvapaksha. To this Swamiji replies, Ashnute evaiti brumaha. We say it does constitute the means of knowledge. It does constitute the valid means of knowledge, even though you quote the Shruti at the end. After determining the truth, if you quote the Shruti, yet it becomes valid means of knowledge. How? Isn't it contradiction? It is contradiction. Swamiji says, Shrutyanugrihita eva Shrutyanugrihitattvat tarkasya. Here the point you missed it. Swamiji says, the reasoning with whose help we have understood the truth, we have determined the truth. The reasoning is not an independent reasoning. The reasoning is a Shrutyanugrihita tarka. It is offered by the Shruti. Shruti offered tarka is avastatraya viveka, karya karana prakriya. All the Upanishadic prakriyas, all the Upanishadic prakriyas which Shruti has offered, we are using only those prakriyas while discussing. Okay? What Swamiji says is, while debating or discussing, use the prakriyas. So prakriyas mean Shruti Anugrihita Tarka. Prakriyas are Tarka, but the Tarka is not brought by the human mind. Not this. The Avastatraya Prakriya, Karyakarana Prakriya, Panchakosha Prakriya or Drigdrisha Prakriya, these Prakriyas imply reasoning only. But the reasoning of these Prakriyas is not brought by human mind, but offered by the Shruti herself. It is the Shruti that is giving this yukti. Okay? Shruti is giving these Prakriyas. Therefore, Shrutyanugrihitattvat tarkasya. The tarka with whose help we have determined the truth, the tarka with whose help we have ascertained the truth, that tarka is only Shrutyanugrihita tarka. This is important. So Shrutyanugrihita tarkatvat atarkasya yohi tattvanirnayakas tarkaha soapi Shrutyanugrihita eveti nanuvadakatvam shruterbhavati tarkapekshaya. Therefore, the yukti with which we have determined the truth, the reasoning with which we have ascertained the Atma Swarupa is only Shruti Anugrihita, offered by Shruti. So to explain, the reasoning that ascertains the truth is also, my translation I am reading out, is also presented by the very Shruti, very Shastra. Hence, the latter does not become an echo of the reasoning, echo of the reason. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಶ್ರುತಿ ತರ್ಕಕ್ಕೆ ಅನುವಾದಕವಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಅನುವಾದಕ ಅಂದರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನೋನ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ರಿಪೀಟಿಂಗ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇಕೋಯಿಂಗ್. ಶ್ರುತಿ, ಯು ಕಾಂಟ್ ಸೇ ಶ್ರುತಿ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇಕೋಯಿಂಗ್ what is already determined by other means of knowledge. The Shrutyanugrihita tarka, tarka granted by, blessed by, offered by Shruti is also part of Shruti. The logic, the reasoning used during the debate, that is the prakriyas, avastatraya, karya karana, etc. prakriyas, are only given by Shruti. Therefore, in debating, when we say use the logic, don't use direct statements. Don't use direct statements, but use those statements of the Shruti which are offering the logic. When we say reasoning, not independent reasoning, the reasoning of the Shruti. From the Shruti, use the reasoning, and that reasoning is referring to Anubhava. See here. The reasoning offered by the Upanishads, offered by the Vedanta, but they are referring to our Anubhava, and based upon Anubhava can be verified in our Anubhava. So, that reasoning in the form of the prakriyas, the reasoning in the form of prakriyas talked about, explained in the Upanishads are only based upon our Anubhava, and therefore we can verify them in our Anubhava. If this reasoning refers to our Anubhava directly and can be verified, they don't give room to unnecessary disputes and unnecessary arguments. It doesn't involve blind belief, nor it involves unnecessary arguments, okay, unnecessary disputes. So, Shrutyanugrihita tarka, the tarka which is offered by the Shruti, the reasoning which is offered by the Shruti, is in keeping with our Anubhava, is referring to our Anubhava, and this reasoning should be used in the beginning, in the Shastra Charcha. This reasoning should be used in the Shastra Charcha, so that what happens? It is easy to understand, because it is directly referring to our Anubhavas. You can verify in your Anubhava. And the second point is, it doesn't give room to unnecessary disputes and doubts. And it doesn't need blind belief also. Otherwise, if you don't refer to Anubhava, if you cannot verify it in your Anubhava, you have to accept it on faith. Okay, you have to accept it on faith. Here, when you use the reasoning offered by the Shruti, two things. Here the two things are, one is it is directly Shruti. Second, it is Anubhava. Third, it is Yukti. All the three are involved in it. So if you use Shrutyanugrihita tarka, three things are solved in it, involved in it. It happens to be Shruti, it happens to be reasoning, it happens to be referring to Anubhava. All the three are combined in it. Okay. It is referring to Shruti, because it is from the Shruti only, the prakriyas offered by the Shruti. And it is referring to Yukti because it is in the form of reasoning. Though it is a Shruti, but it is in the form of reasoning. Okay? These arguments are the reasoning that we are using during debate are based upon Shruti, offered by the Shruti. Okay, therefore, it doesn't violate the Apaurushaya Pramana, the Shruti Pramana, because it is the Shruti statements alone, the reasoning given by Shruti. But it is not, it is the reasoning given by Shruti in the form of arguments, but it is not giving a direct statement you have to accept without looking for logic in it. It is offering reasoning in it. Okay? So since it is a reasoning, we can observe, we can inquire into it. Reasoning means observing, inquiring into it. And the third point is, it is referring to Anubhava, based upon Anubhava. It can be verified in our Anubhava. Therefore, Anubhava is also involved. No dispute, no difference of opinion have any place in this kind of debate. Swamiji says, Swamiji has experienced during the debate with many scholars how they deviate, go away, either just simply quote some Shruti statement or some Guru statement and say that he has said it, you have to accept it. Now you are not supposed to look into the reasonability of it, whether what he says is reasonable or unreasonable. No, he said it, you have to accept it. He says, if you quote a Shruti statement, if you quote a Jnani statement, a Mahatma statement, a Siddha Purusha statement, we should expect it to be reasonable. It should follow the reasoning. It can't be irrational. Okay? It can't be against logic and say that it is a state. That means the Shruti statement and a Mahatma statement or a Jnani statement always follows the reasoning. It doesn't violate the reason. And that means it can be coached in the language of reasoning, because Upanishad itself is doing. Upanishad itself is presenting the truth which is revealing that the Aham Brahmasmi, that the Brahman is the Atma is Brahman. This truth which it is revealing, to reveal the truth, it is using prakriyas. Okay? Avastatraya, it is using reasoning also. Because in Shadlinga, Upakrama, Upasamhara, that is the beginning, introducing the topic, concluding the topic. This is Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyaso, Apurvata, Phalam. These Shadlingas we know. These six linga. Linga means, how to translate Shadlinga. Shadlinga means principles, let us say. The 6 ideas or 6 principles to determine the purport of an Upanishad, a context. These are the Shadlingas you are supposed to follow. One is the introduction and the conclusion, that is the Upakrama and Upasamhara. Then Abhyasa. What is the most important? What it wants to convey, it repeats. See, what it wants to convey, it repeats it because it is important. It repeats it, so the repetition is a part of teaching, the very Upanishad, very Veda is using. And it is using as a factor of communication, as an important point in communication. What is that? What I repeat is important. You should not miss it. You should not make it secondary. Therefore, what is important, we repeat it. Abhyasaha. Apurvata. It reveals something new. Something new means something, an insight into something. It gives an insight into something which we don't know yet. What is already known is known, but it gives a deeper insight. Apurvata means it gives an insight into something, a deeper experience. Abhyasa. See, Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyasa, Apurvata, Phalam. After stating something, it should state the benefit of it, the phalam, the fruit of it. If you say Aham Brahmasmi, if it is teaching, then what is the fruit? That you become free from all samsara. The phalam has to be stated. Then while determining the meaning of it, determining the purport, the tatparya of it, we take into consideration the phalam also. Phalam means the result. If result is stated, then that is the idea, that is the idea conveyed. If the result is not stated, it is a passing statement, it is not a intended statement. If the result is not stated, it is not intended statement. It is not intending to teach it. It is a passing statement, okay, like Srishti. Srishti, he is not telling the result of Srishti. If suppose you know the process of creation, do you get any benefit? Does Shruti say that this is the benefit if you know the process of the creation? It doesn't teach. After teaching Srishti, it says everything is one. That is the result you are supposed to know. If you know that, you become free from samsara. See, anything that is born of Brahman is inseparable from Brahman. Itself is Brahman, the entire universe. Since the entire universe is born of Brahman, still continues to be Brahman. It never left Brahman. It has never moved away from Brahman. Therefore, it is Brahman even now. Just as a wave which is born of water doesn't move away from water, doesn't get separated from water, is not something additional to water. Therefore, wave is nothing but water alone. It is water. It continues to be water. It was water, is water, even now it is water. And it is never moved away from water. Therefore, it is nothing but water. Therefore, the cause and effect or the creation, the process of creation, when it is taught, it gives its implication. What is the implication of that creation? It says that what is born of something is inseparable from its cause. Therefore, if the effect is inseparable from its cause, then it means two things. There is no effect at all. There is no creation at all. What you call effect is nothing but the cause alone in another name. You are giving another name, is in another perspective, another way of looking, but it continues to be the same. So the effect is not something, a product. It is not something an additional to it. Okay? Effect is not additional to cause, one thing. Second is the creation itself is not real happening. The production or the creation is not something a real happening. Creation is only a way of talking. It is only a way of presenting. It is not something a real occurrence. Okay? And the process of creation also has no meaning in itself. The process of creation, in implication, ultimately it means the effect is inseparable from the cause. Or what you call effect is a so-called effect, we have to say. The effect is only a so-called effect. In fact, it is not an effect at all. There is no effect at all. We have taken it as an effect. Therefore, the so-called effect is inseparable from the cause. So the karyam is inseparable from the karanam. So the srishti itself is only a kalpitam. The creation itself is only a prakriya. It is only a kalpitam. It has no implication. It is not intended. And its intended purpose is because you talk of many things. Then what is it you want to ultimately convey? What is that ultimate tatparyam? This is what I imply. This is what I mean. What is ultimately you mean? That what is ultimately meant, what is ultimately implied, is the real point to be understood, and for that a result is given, a fruit is given. If you understand this, so if you understand that everything is Brahman alone, then the duality goes away, then the samsara goes away. You will become free from samsara. But if you know the srishti process, the process of creation, you will get this benefit. Nowhere it is stated. Okay? So, for the process of creation, no result is stated, no fruit is stated. So, therefore, phalam is also a determining factor. So, Shad Lingas means 6 determining factors. So these are the 6 factors which help you in determining the tatparya, the overall message, the total message, the ultimate message of the Upanishad, or ultimate message of the section of Upanishad. Ultimate message, ultimate implication, final implication, what it wants to convey throughout the Upanishad, the entire message of the entire Upanishad. What is this total overall message of the entire Upanishad? So to determine the message of the entire, the complete, the overall implication or the message of the Upanishad, we have to use these 6 determining factors. With the help of these 6 determining factors, we ascertain the implication of the Upanishad. One is Upakrama Upasamhara. That is the introducing, how it introduces the topic and how it concludes. Means what does it introduce with and what does it conclude with? How does it conclude? See, I start this. Say, now therefore we have concluded this. This is what we have stated. This helps us. What is the topic going on? What does it really imply? What does he want to convey? You can understand. Otherwise, many things are talked about in between, which is the implied, which is only a tool to communicate something. 2 things are there. We bring in between many examples, many events, okay, many illustrations. Now, what is the implied point? Otherwise, we can take unintended, unimplied idea from the same event, from the same illustration. People may take unintended, unimplied idea from the same illustration, from the same drishtanta. From same drishtanta, avivakshita artha you might take. Same drishtanta, what is vivakshita, what is implied has to be understood. If avivakshitam, unintended, unimplied idea you take, that is not the idea. Therefore, how to determine? Therefore, these are the points. Upakrama, Upasamhara, this is one linga. Abhyasa, repetition. What is important, what is intended to be conveyed, or what is vivakshitam is repeated. So, Upakrama, Upasamhara is one determining factor, one linga. Tatparya Nirnayaka linga in Sanskrit. Tatparya Nirnayaka linga, determining factor. Okay. Then second is Abhyasa. Third is Apurvata. Apurvata means it should bring a new insight. A new insight it should produce. It is not something what is already known, it keep on touching it is meaningless. It has to give a new insight, a deeper insight. Therefore, first is Upakrama Upasamhara. Second is Abhyasa, that is repetition. Third is Apurva. Apurva means something new, something already not known. A new insight, a new depth it gives. Okay. Apurvata. Then phalam. Abhyaso apurvata phalam. Phalam means it should state the fruit of it. So, out of the many points touched there, where the phalam is stated, that is the real vivakshitam, that is really intended to be conveyed. That is the implication. If the fruit is not stated, then that is not the idea. Abhyaso apurvata phalam arthavadopapattischa. Then arthavada. Arthavada means one more important factor. The factor which helps you to determine the implication of the Upanishad. The message of the Upanishad, ultimate message of the Upanishad. The final message, tatparyam. Final purport of the Upanishad. Another is Arthavada. Arthavada is Ninda and Stuti. Ninda is condemnation. Stuti is praising. You praise and condemn. Ninda, Stuti. Ninda is condemnation. Praise is, Stuti is praise. So, Ninda, Stuti, praise and condemnation. So, what it is intends to say, what is Vivakshitam is praised. What is Vivakshitam, its Stuti is done. What is Avivakshitam is condemned. Okay? What is Avivakshitam, what is unintended is condemned. What is intended See, when it says that, see, for example, take it, Dvaitam. It talks of Jiva, Jagattu, etc. But ultimately it says, Yatra nanena pashyati, mrityoha mrityum apnoti, yatra naneva pashyati. Where you see the nanatvam, you will attain from mrityu to mrityu. Okay, that means you keep dying again and again. You keep being born and being die. You keep being born and dying. You keep on, and it goes on taking birth and dying, taking birth and dying. Janma marana, it goes on. If you see the nanatvam, if you see duality, if you see multiplicity. But if you see yatra ekameva pasyet, where you see the one, there is no fear. There is no where you see the duality, you go from death to death. You repeatedly die. You repeatedly take birth and death. One is stated. It is a ninda. It is a condemnation. It is not appreciation. It is not praising. Second is udaramantarang kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. Where you see the duality, there is a fear. So it is pointing out negative things, negative result. That means it is condemning it. But where you see the oneness, there is no fear. In the oneness, in the ekatvam, there is no bhayam. In the ekatvam, you are free from dukkha. Like this, it is praising the ekatvam and condemning the dvaitam. And this is also an indicating factor, a determining factor. This factor helps you to determine what is implied, what is intended by the Shruti and what is not. Okay, what is intended by Shruti and what is not can be understood by this another factor, that is Arthavada. It is a Vedika Bhasha. Arthavada is a Vedic term. It means praise and condemnation. Nindastuti is called Arthavada. So what it wants to convey, it praises. So this also helps. It doesn't praise that, so for example, Sruti Prakriya. Does he praise that those who know this Srishti Prakriya, he will be happy? He won't say that. Shruti Prakriya tilkondare nimage aanandavaagtade elli helaliಲ್ಲ. But if Aikyam is known, Ekatvam is known, that Ananda, like this. Say if the Ekatvam is known, there is Ananda. If you know the oneness, you will become free from samsara. No death, no fear. Like this, it praises, what it praises is intended to be conveyed. But it doesn't praise, that means it Nanatvam. When it talks of Srishti and condemns Nanatvam. See, the Upanishad, it talks of Srishti. From Brahman, this is born, Panchabhutas are born, body is born, sense organs are born, jivas are born, many things it talks about it. Then ultimately it says, those who see the Nanatvam will go from death to death, will keep on, will keep attaining death again and again. They are going to die. That means then I don't intend to convey the multiplicity, though I am talking of Srishti, though I am talking of the process of creation, I am not intending to say the Nanatvam multiplicity, because I have condemned multiplicity. Then in the light of that condemnation of multiplicity, understand then what he means. When he is talking of Srishti, what is the real implication? Does he mean to say that the world is created and there are many things come out of Brahman? If many things come out of Brahman, what is the point in learning? Does he say any good benefit of it? Benefit of knowing this? No, it only moreover condemns it. That means Nanatvam is not implied. Okay, Nanatvam is, Srishti is not Vivakshitam. Srishti is not intended to be conveyed. Then what? Through Srishti, Srishti is only a method. Srishti is only a tool. Srishti is only an upaya, a way to convey the oneness. How whatever is born of something is inseparable from it. An effect that is born of cause is inseparable from the cause. Like water, like the wave born of water is inseparable from water. Okay, the wave that is born of water is inseparable from water. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadeyam mrittiketyeva satyam. All that is born is only a name's sake. It is only a way of looking. It is only a perspective. In intrinsically, there is no change, there is no modification, there is no production. In itself, intrinsically, there is no production. It is only another way of looking. It is only a thought. Vacharambhanam means it is only a thought. You only look at it different way. It's another angle of looking. It is not a change intrinsically in it. Vikaraha namadeyam, there is no real vikara. It is only in name's sake. It is only namadeyam, namamatram. Namamatram means what? You are giving another name to the same thing. You are looking from another angle the same thing. The thing in itself intrinsically doesn't undergo change. There is no vikara in it. Vacharambhanam vikara. Vangmatra alambanam. Arambanam, then Shankaracharya says alambanam. It depends upon speech. Means it depends upon your perspective. It depends upon your perspective alone. Speech means a thought. Thought means a perspective. See, this is all technical language. Speech means thought. Thought means perspective. It is only a perspective. A difference in perspective. You look at it another way. It is only a perception. You perceive it differently, the thing remaining the same. Vastu remains the same. Therefore, Vasarambhanam vikaro namadeyam mrittiketyeva satyam. Therefore, the wave is only in a name. It is nothing but water. Ornament only in a name. It is nothing but gold. Similarly, cloth is only in a name. It is actually cotton. The piece of cotton put in a particular angle, okay, arranged in a particular, it is only a matter of arrangement. Arrangement itself is not an intrinsic vastu. It is not substantial. It is only an angle of looking only. You take the cotton, you arrange it in a particular way, and you look at it and looks like something. Okay. The same cotton, put it like a heap, you call it a heap, or fold it in a particular way, it appears like a something. Then you fold it in another way. It is only a way of folding, but the thing, substance, no change. No change in the substance. It is only in way of folding. Therefore, the same cotton, you fold it in one way, it is called cloth. You fold in another way, you called it thread. You fold it in another way, you call it pillow. You fold it in another way, you call it something else. Okay, mattress, pillow. Nowadays, you have foam, sponge and all that. In ancient days, we were using only cotton pillows and cotton, mattress. Cotton mattress, cotton pillows and all cotton, everything cotton only. Anyway, so the cotton. So the cotton put in a different shape. That's all. A shape doesn't bring about any intrinsic change in the substance. Like water, you put in another angle, look at it, it called a wave. You put in another vessel, it looks like, it appears to be assuming a shape of another vessel. So this vessel is only a superficial. It doesn't bring about any change in the very content of it. Therefore, this is called the Srishti. When we talk about it, it implies that it is same. What you call effect is only an appearance. It is only an appearance. It is only a perspective. It is only perception. But intrinsically, it is water alone. Similarly, the entire universe is the waking state or the dream state. Both are same. The same state itself is inseparable from the consciousness. The state in which appearing in the consciousness, therefore it is inseparable from the conscious. It is a wave in the consciousness as a first step. Okay, just like a wave. Wave is only a wave in the water, a ripple in the water, a disturbance in the surface of the water, but it doesn't destroy water, doesn't change the water. It only brings about another appearance, that's all. Wave is only another perspective of the same water. Similarly, waking state, dream state, all these states are only another appearance of the same consciousness, same Atma. Same Atma, same consciousness, you are looking from another perspective. Waking is one perspective. Dream is another perspective. Deep sleep is another perspective. But what is that content? What is the main substance? Existence is the same substance, or consciousness is the same substance. Anyway, whether you call existence or consciousness, it is the same. Sat or Chit, Chaitanyam or Satta, both are same. Okay, so the one consciousness seen as waking as a state. When you look at the state as a whole, see what is state with reference to consciousness. What is state with reference to consciousness? State is only a way of appearing of the same consciousness. Same consciousness, you are seeing it in one way. Dream is another way of seeing. Deep sleep is another way of seeing. These are the three ways of seeing the same consciousness. Just as same water you see in a smaller wave, then bigger wave, then another wave. You are seeing it in a different shapes. Same consciousness seen in one shape is called waking, another shape dream, yet another shape is deep sleep. These three states are only three shapes of one consciousness, which intrinsically is beyond all shapes. Okay. So this is the way the cause and effect or avasthas when we talk of. Tentatively, we don't mean Atma is undergoing states. Because the manyness, the multiplicity is condemned. When the multiplicity is condemned, how can you take that three states, Atma appearing, becoming, undergoing three states? Shruti is not intending to say that there are three states. It is telling what appears, what is taken to be three is in fact one alone. Three states are only appearances, perspectives, but the reality, the existence is one. Drop the perception, the way you perceive, see the way it is. See the way it is. It is one consciousness, non-dual, infinite consciousness. Okay? So, we pay attention to the external forms or a thought. Then it looks many. Imagination, thought is many. But go to the content of the thought, it is just to consciousness. In the consciousness, there can't be multiplicity. Therefore, Arthavada is a fifth factor. The sixth factor, which is most important, is Upapatti. Okay, we have stated 6. Shall I repeat? Upakrama, Upasamhara. Introducing the topic and concluding the topic. These two put together constitute one factor, one determining factor. Upakrama, Upasamhara. Second is Abhyasa, that is repetition. Third is Apurvata, something new, unknown so far. Something new factor revealed, new truth revealed. Abhyaso, Apurva, Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyaso, Apurvata, Phalam. Phalam, stating a fruit of it, is the fourth factor. Arthavada, that is a present condemnation, is the fifth factor. Sixth factor is Upapatti. Upapatti means reasoning. What you say cannot be unreasonable. It must be reasonable. So it should follow reasoning. Therefore, it shows some reasoning. Karya Karana. See, an effect which is born of cause is inseparable from. So in all our illustrations, certain reasoning is implied. In all our illustrations, a reasoning is implied. A cause and effect. Effect before it was born was already with the cause. Effect before it was born with the cause, inseparable from the cause. Then how can the cause produce something which is other than itself? You can't produce something other. If you produce means you are undergoing change and you are killing yourself. No cause would like to kill itself by producing something out of it. No cause would. A cause would produce something if it feels fulfilled in it. But it won't want to destroy. Therefore, cause has produced something in which it is already full. That means the effect never moves away from it. Effect is already inseparable from the cause. So, the cause and effect, the idea of cause and effect implies, it wants to convey the oneness of so-called cause and effect. So it means that cause is only an appearance. There is no real, effect is an appearance. There is no real effect. Effect is inseparable from the cause. Okay? The effect is inseparable from the cause. Therefore, there is no effect at all. There is no production. Cause has not undergone any change. Ultimately, it says, see, from the Ishvara, Jagat is born. Ultimately says, it is everything is Ishvara alone. That means it remains even now Ishvara. Ishvara has not reduced by the production of something. So in these things there is a reasoning. In the illustrations there is a reasoning. In the avasthas there is a reasoning. In the analysis of avastha there is a reasoning involved. In panchakosha there is a reasoning involved. In subject-object, drugdrishya, there is a reasoning involved. Therefore, unreasonable things cannot be accepted. Therefore, upapatti, there is a reasoning stated in it. Okay. This is what Swamiji says. Ata eva hi tatparyalingeshu upapattimapi petu purvacharyaah. That's why our acharyas have included. See, that is why the acharyas have included reasoning also as one of the factors that help ascertain the purport of the text. Tatparyalingeshu, among the factors that help us to determine the tatparya, upapatti or yukti, shrutyanugrihita tarka is also included in it. And not only included, it is found as a part of the Shruti. Okay. Bhagavat Padaischa Abhashi. And Bhashyakara himself says like this, Shankaracharya. A quotation is given. What is that? Shrutyanugrihitah eva hi atra tarko anubhavangatvena ashriyate. The reasoning is adopted here. Ashriyate. The reasoning is offered by the Shruti. That is resorted to as a means of final intuition. Anubhavangatvena ashriyate. It is taken help of, it is used as a means to the anubhava. Anubhavangatvena, two meanings are there. Based upon anubhava, in keeping with anubhava, or culminating in final anubhava. That means it starts with anubhava. The reasoning proceeds based upon anubhava, because it is only analyzing the anubhavas and ultimately culminates in the absolute anubhava. Therefore, in this connection, it is reasoning offered by the Shruti that is used, that is resorted to, that is used, that is depended upon as a means of Purna Anubhava. Anubhavangatvena ashriyate. This is a Sutra Bhashya Vakya 216. Okay, iti. Vartikakara ischa. And Vartikakara also says Anvaya Vitireka Purassaram Vakyameva Avakyartha Rupam Atmanam Pratipadayati. Through Anvaya Vitireka. Anvaya Vitireka is a reasoning. Is a kind of a reasoning of Anvaya and Vitireka. Okay? Vakyameva. So the very Upanishad alone uses Anvaya Vitireka to help itself better understood. To help itself understand, it uses reasoning to help its implication understood. See, Anvaya Vitireka, the proposition alone presupposes the reasoning of Anvaya and Vitireka. Anvaya is inherent. Vitireka is excluding. Reveals the Atman, which is the non-relational meaning of the sentence. Vakyartha. In order to convey the Vakyartha, the Shruti itself uses Anvaya Vitireka Nyaya. Shruti itself uses a kind of reasoning in order to help itself understood correctly. This is what Suraj Tasmat Tarkasyapi Shrutyupajivakatvat Nasti Apramanyam Shrute. Therefore, by using the reasoning during debate, you can't say you have set aside Shruti. You can't say that we have not set aside Shruti. In fact, we are bringing another aspect of Shruti. In Shruti, there is a simple statement, another is reasoning. Okay, one is a simple direct statement, another is reasoning. We only said that the reasoning aspect of the Shruti you bring here for discussion. The reasoning which is offered, which is used by the Shruti, only those arguments alone bring here during the debate. And the final conclusion, a statement of conclusion, we will bring it at the end. If you bring the statement of a conclusion and ask us to accept, Shruti has stated finally that you are Brahman, now you have to accept it. You can't take that final conclusion, a statement implying conclusion directly without using any reasoning in it. Reasoning helps us to assimilate the knowledge revealed. Reasoning helps us assimilate it. Assimilate means to understand in our anubhava, in verify in our anubhava. Therefore, reasoning should be stated while discussing, and the conclusion, the conclusion of the reasoning can be stated at the end. Why do you just say the conclusion and ask us to accept without offering the reasonability of it, without showing how it is tenable? Without showing how it is tenable, you just make a statement, ask us to accept. So therefore, the final conclusive statement shouldn't be brought. Bring the reasoning first, use it throughout the debate, and once with the help of the reasoning the truth is determined, then bring the Shruti's conclusion, what we have arrived at, the conclusion which we have arrived at, with the help of the reasoning offered by, of course, by Shruti. With the help of the reasoning, whatever conclusion we have ascertained, and then compare with Shruti at the end. Yes, Shruti also gives the same conclusion, then it tallies. But don't bring directly the conclusion. It is something like people give ready-made statements, ready-made conclusions. Don't give ready-made conclusions. Show the reasoning. Ask him to inquire and let him discover the conclusion. You don't give ready-made conclusions. You give the reasoning, ask him to follow this reasoning, probe into yourself, explore into your Atma, negate what is not you. Because your inquiry itself shows what is negated, what remains. You come to it, and this is what, then see what does Shruti say? Shruti says the same thing. Then you are correct. Then your exploration within yourself, your inquiry within yourself, with the help of these prakriyas, the arriving, what you arrive at, is it correctly you have arrived? Have you correctly applied the prakriyas in vichara? In vichara, have you applied the prakriyas correctly? Have you reached the conclusion correctly? You look at the Shruti. Shruti gives a conclusion. Then compare with your conclusion and what Shruti's conclusion. Both of them come at the same. Both of them tally, agree with perfectly. Then you are correct. Therefore, you bring the Shruti's conclusion at the end. Don't bring the conclusion first. No, Shruti stated, you have to accept it. Ready-made conclusions should not be given. You have to find out how you arrived at. Giving ready-made conclusions doesn't help. You have to reach that in your anubhava by verifying your anubhava. You have to arrive that conclusion by verifying in your anubhava. Have you really come to the truth? Come to the discovery of the truth. If supposing somebody discovered something, if it tells directly ready-made, we dismiss it. It's all blind belief. But if I show how it is possible, step by step, you convincingly, then that way with that step, with that reasoning, you come to that conclusion on your own. Then you say, yes, I accept what you say, because I too have arrived by analyzing, by exploring, by probing into it, by doing vichara, I too came to the same conclusion. Then it is perfectly correct. Okay? Okay. Apicha, then the next argument. Next, apicha mrishai vedam vachanam yuktiradikarane. Regarding the logic, Swamiji touched 3 points. One is, just now we have discussed. The reasoning cannot render Shruti Pramana as an Anuvadaka. It doesn't render Shruti as a only simply echoing. Shruti, it doesn't render Shruti as a simple one which echoes it. Shruti also reveals, because all the reasoning we are using is only Shruti's reasoning only. This first point. Second point is telling again, by using the logic, he is told, the Purvapakshi told, by using the logic, Shruti becomes secondary. No. How? Second point he has to say. And third point, 3 points he is going to discuss. And with this, the topic is over. And then last, there is only one paragraph of conclusion. Anyway, I think we have got 1 or 2 more classes. Okay, we'll discuss in the next class. Yesterday I couldn't do, there was, my phone was giving trouble. It couldn't fix it with that. Anyway, it was a minor problem. We got corrected it. And now I am able to use it. So tomorrow we will have a Gita, 6th chapter in English, that is Sunday. And then day after tomorrow, Monday, we will have the Gita Bhashyam in Telugu. And the Tuesday will be like before, Vedanta Paribhasha. Wednesday, Mula Vidya Nirasa. Again Thursday, Vedanta Paribhasha. And then the Friday, Mula Vidya Nirasa. This will continue like before. Unless I have some problem or some visitor come and disturbs me, or I have my health problem. If I don't have it, we will continue. Okay, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.